All right. All right, we're live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris, and this is my channel, Bar911970. And I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this, what I feel is a very important message I got that I want to share with you. I've actually disabled the live chat for this particular video because I want people to focus on the message. So I really hope you'll listen to it from the beginning and listen to the entire message, because I have to put everything first in context to make you understand the situation. And apparently the live chat has not been disabled. Alright, well, it is what it is. Hopefully people will focus on the message itself. So I will not be reading the live chat. I thought I disabled it. So anyway, alright, so I want to start out with the premise to set everything up. So yesterday, I have no idea why, but I was in the worst mood I have been in a long time. I was very angry. I was very snippety, very quick to react to something to stress me out and aggravate me, and there was no reason why. I mean, I literally woke up this way. Didn't have any nightmares or bad dreams or anything. And again, this will be relevant, so listen to it because it's going to guide everything that happened to where I'm sharing this with you. But I was in the worst mood yesterday. Didn't want to go near anybody, didn't want to talk to anybody. Even my cats were just stressing me out with every little thing, and I did not understand why. And one of the things I like to do, and I highly recommend people do this, is right around sunset, I'll take a chair outside and I'll just sit in my backyard and just stare up at the sky. I'll see birds flying, I'll see bats fluttering around, which I love seeing because there's fruit bats around here that they'll come out at sunset, and I just love to see them. And the stray cats and kittens will all come sit around me, and it's just very peaceful. I do that a lot, and yesterday I decided I want to do that again. I was just in a bad mood, so I went outside for about 2 or 3 hours. And the ironic part is, it didn't make me feel better, but it calmed me down. It was almost a meditation kind of state. I was still very angry. I was almost depressed a little bit because I'm going to be turning 50 this year, which is a big deal. Well, at least, you know, people make it into a big deal. And because I moved from New York to Florida in the past year, my family, my friends, my whole life is in New York. So I was thinking, you know, I'm going to be alone, and I'm sitting back there by myself. And again, I don't know why I was feeling this way, but sitting back there alone, and I highly recommend you do that. Find an area where you are alone, somewhere in nature. It can't be indoors because there's too much electronic equipment around your house that will influence you in ways you don't understand. So I highly recommend going to maybe a stream in the woods. If you have mountains near your area, beaches where you could be by yourself, a lake, whatever. A nature trail that you know people aren't going near. And just kind of sit there and just let your mind wander wherever it's going to wander. And I was out there for a good 2.5 hours. Went from sunset to complete darkness. And I was still upset, wondering why I was so upset. Kept saying how I was alone, but it put me in almost like a relaxed state of mind. I wasn't as angry. And when I came back inside, I started watching a whole bunch of videos that was teaching about ego and things like that, and I really got obsessed with watching them. Probably watched about 30 different videos. And basically, all these different videos were saying about how your ego is a part of you and how we have been misrepresented and lied to about how we treat our ego. Because people are constantly telling you to kill your ego. And that is wrong. Because in the videos I was listening to, and I always trust my instincts with things that resonate with me. I don't question them. And the videos were basically saying, think of it like Peter Pan when he's playing with his shadow. Now, the shadow is attached to you, and you can't remove it even if you want to. It is also a part of you. It mimics what you do. And if you view your ego as a bonded soul partner that connected to you so you can survive the transition from spirit into this dimensional, 3-dimensional / 4-dimensional realm. And the purpose of ego is not what people have portrayed it to be, but it's like a child. And a child will rant and rave and scream and yell and cry if it doesn't get what it wants, because it doesn't understand. That's why if you think about the symbolism of Peter Pan, he's a man, but he still he's a childlike entity. And we've been told to kill our ego. Now, just imagine if you were an entity and part of something that you're connected with is always saying that I have to put you down, or I have to kill you, I have to get rid of you. How would you react? So, the biggest thing was talking about how the only job of an ego is to bring you here so you can experience this physical realm. Because this physical realm is for masters only. Because of how harmful it is even to light. Because one of the things, and this is the funny part, because I don't want to get too deep right away. I want to explain how I got this information. Because basically they said you have to think of your ego like, for example, when you have voices in your head, and everybody has them. You've ever had it where you stub your toe and inside your head say, ow, that was a stupid move. Or you're cursing out a friend or a boss or somebody down the street, but you don't say anything, you just think it in your head. That's actually your ego talking to you. Now, many people are not going to understand this or comprehend this. Like I said, this is kind of master level stuff. But I'm very good at being able to describe things in ways that are going to put things in perspective through visualization. And there's going to be a lot of that. So don't give up on this yet. It's long-winded, but it's got a purpose. So what happened was, after I was watching all those videos and getting this resonating feeling that your ego is part of you, it's here to allow you to become in this realm. That's why everything in this realm dies and is destruction. It's a master level hologram, illusion, whatever you want to say, where you project yourself here, and it is so far from light. It's one of the reasons why everything casts a shadow, because light cannot pass through it. It reaches it, but it can't pass through it, because light could pass through anything, but here it casts a shadow because it cannot completely go through. So when I made the decision last night, because they said you have to consider your ego as a separate entity. It's constantly, you're being reinforced in this world to kill your ego. And since your ego is a living being connected to you through agreement to be here to learn resistance, because this is an extreme realm of resistance, but extreme realms of resistance creates extreme strength. But you can get stuck here, and many people lose their connection. But I basically said, well, after watching the videos, they basically said you have to forgive your ego, you have to apologize to your ego, you have to let your ego understand that everyone has an oversoul. That's a higher vibrational part of you that you're constantly connected to, which is connected directly to Source, which is pure love, but it is you, and you here are the projection of your higher Source, your oversoul. And when you fight with your ego, ignore your ego, or make it do more than its job was supposed to be, you have to think of think of you and your sibling, if you have one, and just pretend if you do, that you're fighting over the remote control for the TV. And you're constantly going back and forth, and, you know, as you're grabbing the remote from the other person, you may turn it on and off and change channels, but neither one of you are watching what you want because you're too busy fighting amongst yourself. And think of it as your father or mother taking the remote from you and saying, I'll put on a show that I know you'll both watch. So the reason why we don't get the messages that we want, because I basically last night, and I'll explain, I had a ayahuasca experience without taking ayahuasca. No drugs, no alcohol, no nothing. And I experienced a DMT kind of trip just from what I'm about to tell you that I did. Now, you could believe it, you could not believe it, you could dismiss it, whatever. Free will allows you to make any choice. Those that find this crazy are basically people that are just not at this level yet, but you can be if you want. So, as crazy as it sounded, I basically went into the other room by myself, and I talked in my head to my ego, apologizing for all the burdens I gave it, saying that you are appreciated, and with you fighting with your ego, you're not allowing your oversoul to send you messages to guide you in the right direction. And as soon as I did that, all of a sudden, like I said, I had almost like an ayahuasca experience, where the center of my brain felt like it was warm and lighting up, and I started getting downloaded messages that I'm about to tell you. Now, if you've watched my channel before, you know I talk about the fact of dreams. I didn't have a dream this time, and again, I did not consume any drugs, any alcohol, anything. I just realized that people here are taught to defeat your ego, to ignore your ego, or use your ego in ways it wasn't meant to be made. And just imagine if you were the ego half of you, and you're constantly being told that, you know, I have to kill you. You would be, as a child, very upset about that, and maybe even rebel, which is why you're always in confliction of yourself. So when I tried this, what I thought could have been, I didn't think it was ridiculous, because if it was ridiculous I wouldn't have done it, because it resonated with me. So as crazy or as silly as it might sound, I communicated with my ego, apologized, and said, let's work together, because then we can allow our oversoul, our higher self, our higher source, guide us where we need to be, and we won't, neither one of us will have to do the work. It will actually be fun for us. And that's when I said, all of a sudden, while I was just laying in bed, not sleeping or anything, all of a sudden getting bombarded with messages, like I was under the influence of ayahuasca, DMT, mushrooms, or anything. And again, I'll stress, I did not take anything. And they basically were telling me that the purpose of this 3/4 dimensional realm, it's for masters who want to learn extreme resistance. Because to master something, you have to master it from its extreme. So you notice everything here is predatory. It can be very depressing, very separating, very angry, very fearful. And it is so far away from the light that light actually can penetrate, but not all the way through, which is why shadows are cast. This is what I'm told. And they said the best way to describe your pain, because when you're spirit, you live forever. You cannot die. But when you come here, this realm is so strong and powerful that it degrades you. That's why you age, get diseases, get sick, and eventually die. But it's just the body that you're here with. And think of your ego as the pilot in your plane that you're sitting in. Its job is just to fly you here. But you're making your ego do all of this other work. Now just imagine if you're a pilot of a plane and you're bringing somebody to a destination and they tell you, well, now you have to cook dinner, Now you have to make sure you pack my bags, unpack my bags, drive me to the airport, make sure you pay for the bills, make sure you tuck me into bed, make sure that you build me a house, so on and so on. If you were that pilot, you'd be like, wait, my job is just to fly you there. Why are you burdening me with all this extra stuff? So there's a rebellion going on. And we're both fighting for the remote, because if you think about reality, and if you watched a Marvel movie and things, I mean, they've been talking about this in the comic books since the 60s, which I find funny why my other channel is a comic book channel. But they talk about alternate dimensions, multiple realities. Every reality is in existence already. You're just flowing to the one that resonates with the best frequency for you at that moment, whether it's good or bad, because even bad you can learn from. So bad is not necessarily bad. Now I'm going to explain that in further detail. And because everything is made of light, you're just transferring, like a TV. And that's why I used that reference before, because even if you have the TV off, there are still programs that are being programmed, or the radio. And if you turn it on, it's as simple as turning the dial, hitting the switch, and changing the channel to another frequency that you enjoy. In other words, you watch a show or listen to a song that radiates with you. Life is just that simple. Everything is in existence, so you're not thinking of anything. You're just aligning to what's already there, either to ascend or to learn. You're always learning. You will forever learn. Here, you go kindergarten through 12th grade and maybe a couple years of college, and that's it. In the world, you'll forever be learning something. That's why infinity is here. Infinity was created because singularity realized it was alone and needed to create everything forever, so you could never be bored. You will always have something new. So this realm is for masters to come here and learn resistance. And the amount of time you're here depends on how much you allow pain to hurt you. Now, if you see the image on the screen, you'll see one single boulder in the middle of rapids. Now, I want you to image yourself as that rock in flowing rapids. And let's just assume that the rock had consciousness, because everything is made of the same thing. It's made from source, it's made from singularity, it's made from light. So a rock is no different from you, it's just different atoms. And even rocks can move, but they take millions of years. Nothing stays stable. Mountains come and go. Grand Canyon is a pure example. It was carved over millions of years from water. But here's the thing about other videos that I've made before, and I hope you've watched them. And I talk about being at a crossroad where you stand in one spot afraid to make a choice, and how life will end up affecting you if you don't make a decision, because you stand there and go nowhere. Well, the new image that came to me, I want you to picture yourself that stone in the middle of that current. Now, even if that stone had consciousness and said, I am going to stand in the middle of this flow and I'm going to stop the water. Well, as you can see, the water will continue to flow. It will flow around the rock, and it will bombard the rock no matter how stubbornly it stands there and stands its ground. Eventually, the water will wipe it away and destroy it. That's what I was shown, and that's what I want you to understand or understand about the pain you experience in your life. You are standing in the middle of a river. Well, the river is flowing, and you're being bombarded by the waves. Now, that's not negative. The water is not evil. It's just doing what it's doing. So to the rock can sit there and say, oh, the water is so evil, it's so negative, it's so bad, it's bombarding me, it's hurting me. But it's only flowing the way it's supposed to. It's just doing what it's meant to do. You're in its way instead of flowing with it. So when you stand your ground, and this world teaches you to stay grounded, put both feet on the ground. what you're doing is you're standing in the middle of life's flow that has to continue moving because that's its purpose. It's meant to gear you and take you where you need to go with ease. But when you create resistance, you go against the flow. Now, that's not evil. It's just doing what it's doing. You are hurting yourself by standing your ground. Because if you think about rapids, and I'll prove to you that if you go with the flow, it always takes you where you want to be. Think about rapids. Where do rapids start? They start usually at the top of mountain peaks or higher places. And the water flows down, and where does it go? Usually to a stream, which turns into a lake, which goes into the ocean. Where are most people? Most people are not at the mountaintop. They don't have houses on the mountaintop. They're all at the bottom of where the water flows. When you are here and you're trying to learn resistance and you choose not to move, you will learn very quickly that life will continue to move regardless of what you do. If you don't go with the flow, you will be bombarded by what is just doing its job. It's not trying to hurt you. It is not evil. It is not wrong. Get out of its way. And the image I got after that was, just think about how easy life is supposed to be, that all you have to do is trust. Because when people are in the rapids, what are they afraid of? They're afraid of drowning. So they start swimming. And that makes you tired. Now, it's good to resist every now and then going upstream because it will create strength. But if you do it for too long, it consumes you and drowns you. So most people are afraid of that water. They're afraid of the unknown. They're afraid they're going to get slammed into the rocks. They're afraid they're going to drown, so they panic and they're swimming, trying to save themselves, instead of saying, I need to trust that the water is going to take me where I need to go, and just allow it to do so. And the best part is you can have fun. Because the image I got after that was, just imagine as an adult or a child or whatever, just going on a slip and slide. Unless you try really hard, it's going to be unnatural for you to frown as you run and slide through a slipping slide. It's fun, isn't it? You smile. That's how life is supposed to be. It's no resistance. So you can actually have, when you work with your ego and allow your higher self to guide you, and you allow yourself to trust that it will never hurt you because it's yourself, it is you, and you go with the flow and do not create resistance, you will not cause your pain. And your pain will start to diminish. But if you stand there and say, oh, I'm going to fight the current, I'm going to stand my ground, I'm stubborn, or this is BS, or blah, 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 you are going to continually be that rock in the middle of the stream that is constantly going to be bombarded. The water is going to go around you, continue to flow everything else that needs to go where it needs to go, while you go nowhere and hurt yourself in the process. And you're calling that water evil because you feel pain, and not taking the choice of thinking that the world can be that easy. Because what will people say? Oh, that's being lazy. That's putting in no effort. Makes you feel bad that you're supposed to enjoy this existence. It's supposed to be a playground. But you create your own reality so it will be whatever you want it to be, because you can learn from something. Maybe you need to learn what it's like to be totally broken down. Sometimes you have to go to extremes to learn a lesson. But if you let the stream, in other words, life, flow in the direction that you need to go and just trust it, even if you don't understand where you're going from one moment to the next, you will eventually go to where you're happy. And your job in this life is not supposed to be working 9 to 5, sitting home alone, being depressed about not paying bills. That's not what life is supposed to be. It's supposed to be you experiencing fun, enjoyment, laughter. But you create resistance. And the problem in this realm is many souls get lost here. Because eventually it's like failing school and you have to keep repeating. Eventually you fail so many times you forget who you are. And you don't remember you have that lifeline, that connection to source, and you forget. That's why there are many people in this dimension that are like walking zombies. That they're alive, but they don't remember they have connection to Source. They don't believe in it anymore. They think it's crazy. That means they're being disconnected. Now, you can always get it back. And that's the true test of being as far away from the light as possible and still finding your way home. Many people get trapped here. It's a master's program. You cannot come here unless you are a master. But even masters will continually tell you that you will always learn something new and you will have another challenge. So this realm, it is so powerful that your non-physical spirit cannot come here. You have to create a cocoon, if you will, attach it with a bonded soul partner, your ego, to allow you to get here, which is going to bombard you with so much resistance that it will destroy you slowly, some quicker than others. And because you forget why you're here, you're constantly bombarded with resistance, and you're not solving it. You're sitting there crying, you're sitting there praying, you're sitting there angry, you're sitting there depressed, instead of wondering why you're standing in the middle of the river. Think of it like being on a train track. The train isn't evil if it runs you over. If you're standing on the track and you see the train coming, I don't care how stubborn you are, the train isn't going to stop. The train isn't going to care. The train doesn't even know you exist. It's just doing what it was programmed to do. Your brain is not all... Your brain is not you. Your brain is a biological super quantum computer that is created to do all of the tasks that you cannot worry about being here. In other words, breathing, heart rate, blood flow. Then it has to deal with your emotions and your pains and your anxieties. You are not your brain. When your brain rots and dies, you are still you. Your brain is also a receiver. You never think anything ever because everything already exists. You are just connecting to a vibration. Think of it as the never-ending story. So once you realize that you are causing your pain and take responsibility for it because you're fighting the current, instead of enjoying the ride. You ever been to a water park where you sit in one of those tubes and let the water just take you where you need to go? You're not scared, you're having fun. That's how the world is supposed to be. Unless you let others who have been here for millennia upon millennia, who have lost their connections or don't remember they have them anymore because they've been here so many times, they're going to tell you they're crazy. And this whole thing is a program to teach you resistance. You're not going to learn it if all of a sudden a fly just goes by you every now and then. But you are going to know it if you're being bombarded by everything. Resistance creates strength. You ever hear of resistance training? Weightlifting? If you never use your computer, it doesn't matter how powerful it is. So if you don't plug in your computer, if you don't turn it on, if you don't type in the keys, then nothing ever happens. And it is a waste of a powerful device. It is the same with you. Just think of you being here as a program, and your higher version of you is typing on the computer what you should do because it sees more than you can. Your brain is made to keep you alive in this realm. It is not meant to program you to think what's going to happen 12 moves down the line. Because remember the story, if you listen from the beginning, that I was depressed yesterday for no reason. I was angry. But that anger led to the depression that made me go outside, that made me think, made me realize and say to myself constantly that I was alone, but made me calm, made me come in and watch videos, made me watch videos about things about my ego, made me talk to my ego and put peace with it to where all of a sudden these messages came to me that I'm relaying to you. So all of that was already pre-programmed, but because your brain only thinks in that moment, I was sitting outside saying, I'm alone, because I could not see where that path was leading me. But I trusted in it and allowed it to happen. And I realized, and you should realize, because you need to realize that when you are connected to your source, and you have your ego, which is a bonded, agreed upon soulmate, a bonded soul that attaches to you forever. Like a shadow, you cannot get rid of it even if you wanted to. But just imagine if you're Siamese twins and you hate each other. You can't get away, so you might as well get along. But you come to the realization that you're never, ever alone. And that's a great feeling, to know that you're never alone. So stop resisting if you want to feel what I felt. It was such an overpowering, amazing feeling, and I wasn't angry anymore. Your brain cannot handle outside of this reality what exists, because just look at the air around you. Point it out. You can't see it. Point out a radio wave, a microwave, and yet they're still there. You're watching this probably, most likely, on a mobile device, which is not connected to anything, and yet you're still hearing my message. That's not witchcraft. It's not voodoo. It's just there are different spectrums of energy and light that you cannot perceive. Just because you cannot perceive it does not mean it does not exist. Everything is there for you already. Nobody has ever come up with an idea or a thought ever. They just connect to that thought when you are ready for it. So realize that once you trust your higher self, which is you, that is love, and you make peace with your ego and allow it to do its sole job, which is just to bring you here. Like I said, think of your ego as a pilot or maybe a submarine driver bringing you to a realm that you could not come to yourself. It's not job, it's no other job, and you're giving it all these other jobs, and it's resentful. And you're fighting over the remote. Neither one of you are watching the program that you find makes you happy. So hand the remote over and say, I trust that I will go where I need to go, and it's supposed to be fun. I will no longer apologize for enjoying my life when everybody else tells me that I should feel bad. Do you want to be like them? The angry, miserable, scared people that have been here for so long they no longer remember who they are and lose their connection because they don't believe it's there? How do you turn on a TV that you don't know is there? You can always get it back. Or you could be stuck here for all eternity. So the next time you're in pain, you have to say to yourself, are you that rock in the middle of that rapid? Are you cursing the water for doing nothing more than what it's supposed to do, and you're standing in its way? That rock that you see on the screen will one day disappear. It will be gone because the water and the flow of life always wins when you resist it. It's not trying to hurt you. It is not evil. It is just flowing. As they say, go with the flow. So I want to thank you for listening to this. You can disagree, and that's fine. You can agree and apply this to your life and see what happens. I can only share my experience. It's not meant for everyone. I am well understanding of that. You cannot teach quantum physics to a kindergartner. They will just think it's mumbo jumbo and not listen. And it does not matter how smart you are, how wise you are, how many videos or books you write. If you put it in a way that people cannot comprehend, they will not listen. The world is going to bombard you. But remember, any good video game is going to represent a challenge. And the harder the challenge, the greater you feel when you achieve it. If you bought a video game for $60 and you put in the cartridge or the disc, cartridge shows my age, but you put the disc into the game, and as soon as it turns on, it says, "Congratulations, you won," you'd be pretty mad that you just wasted $60. And I doubt you'd ever want to play it again, because there was no challenge, there was no fun. So here, there is resistance. So it's okay every now and then if you want to swim up the current. You will gather strength that way. But like they say, everything in moderation. So I posted something, and I even put in the title, about watching this from the start. Because if you're listening to this by just joining in, you're not going to understand this message. Now, I'm curious as to how many people paid attention to that, because many people will be lost. And if you're angry about this, or you don't believe it, that's perfectly fine. Free will gives you the right. You are not going to change what I experienced last night. It was the most amazing experience in my life, and it made the most complicated master situation about life very simple. You're in pain because you're going against the flow, and you're standing there not making a decision because you don't trust yourself because of fear keeping you back, instead of realizing that the water will never pull you under. It will never drown you. It will always bring you where you need to be, so you need to trust it. Or not. And be that rock that eventually gets bombarded to the point where it's no longer there. That's not the water's fault. It's the rock's fault. Don't be a rock. Thanks for listening. I hope this helps you. You hitting the like button will suggest to me that you appreciated it at the very least. Whether you practice this or not, whether you know this to be true or not, that's up to you. I can only point you in the direction that many people are asking for. If you are asking for messages and you don't like what you receive, then why are you asking? What is it that you're holding back from? So I hope you will listen to this from the beginning, because if you did not listen to the whole thing, you will miss a lot of things that had to be placed in proper context. Have fun today. Enjoy the rest of your night, and I'll see you